Let me begin by introductions. My name is Jeff Anderson. I am one of the lawyers for these two very courageous survivors who stand with me today, but for the protection of our children. To my left is Dave Lundquist. He will be speaking. He is a survivor. And to his left is Steve Josephson. He will be speaking. He is a survivor. And each of them today have filed individual lawsuits. And each of their lawsuits name the Boy Scouts of America as a defendant. And each of their suits that they brought and chose to bring named the Boy Scouts of America at the national office. Because it is the Boy Scouts of America National that have and continue to keep secrets that are a grave and present peril to the children in scouting. And those secrets that they choose to keep are called the perversion files, or the ineligible volunteer files, that the executives at the Boy Scouts of America have been keeping for over 60 years. And when a scout leader abuses a child, the scouts, when they learn of it, take that information, keep it in a file, and even if they remove the leader who offends, they keep that secret and that file secret also. And they keep them in Texas at their headquarters. And what this lawsuit and these two suits seek to do is cause the Boy Scouts of America to come clean and to be safe by exposing and disclosing all the perversion files to the public, to the people, and to the leaders on the ground that need to know, so the kids can be protected. So what we have done through these suits is bring a public nuisance claim against the Boy Scouts of America, which means they've created a hazard, past and present. And it's that hazard that they created and allowed to be created in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and to the present, that allowed scout leaders to abuse Dave Lundquist and Steve Josephson. And this has not been done before, but it needs to be. The only other time public nuisance has been brought and caused discouragement to have succeeded has been in the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis and other dioceses in Minnesota. These courageous men have chosen to stand up for all these other kids that need to be protected and to do what they can to get the Boy Scouts of America at the national level to do what they should be doing, protecting kids first and not their reputation first. So for that reason, I want to applaud both Steve and David for their courage. I also want to, I want you to hold that for a minute. I also want to turn it over to each of them and perhaps have them share a little bit why they've taken this action. Before I do, I'm going to put my hand on some boxes that are the files or the perversion files that have already been disgorged through litigation that was brought earlier in Portland, Oregon, some years ago. And these are the perversion files from 1965 to 1985. And in these perversion files reflects the Boy Scout file that had been kept secret until 2 years ago of the offenders in this case, Lyle Opolensky and Richard Swenneman. These files are out, but the last 30 years of files are not. And it's this action and these actions taken by these men today that seek to get the 30 years of perversion files finally disclosed, so that those that need to know in scouting are informed, are warned, are trained, and the hazard that we know exists today and right now is abated or stopped. So thank you, Steve and Dave. Dave, I'd like to first turn it over to you for a minute and just ask you to introduce yourself and tell us why you're doing this.
As Jeff mentioned, my name is David Lundquist. I currently live in Woodbury. At age 11, I was systematically sexually abused by my scout master, Richard Fred Swendeman. And it's a pain that you carry with you for a long, long time. And one of the reasons I'm here today is unload that shame, because it needs to be unloaded. And if I can do that today and maybe help other people unload shame they might be living with, then it's worth it.
Dave, tell us, you said shame. Tell us a little bit about, we know Swendeman, your scout master, sexually abused you as a youth, as a teen. How did you carry that, and what happened, and did you share that with anybody?
One of the things he did was he sat us down very, very early as he recruited us and started to groom us very, very early. And one of the things he groomed us with is to keep secrets, to not tell anybody. That the things we were going to do was all part of being a Boy Scout, all part of normal scouting. So I kept it quiet for quite a while, until I finally told a big sister of mine, who thankfully took the reins from there. But he had us so groomed and had me so groomed that the things that were occurring, he had us convinced were part of being a Boy Scout.
And you did end up telling your sister and then telling the pastor. Tell us about that.
Initially, after telling some family members, I went to the church pastor where the troop was sponsored from, and told my story. And it wasn't a reception that I was very happy with, because it was more doubt. We're not sure we believe you, and that kind of pain for an 11-year-old kid, that cuts deep. That cuts deep.
And at the age of 11, then, after telling the pastor, he told you that you're going to have to meet with some of the officials of the Boy Scout, and you had a meeting with them. Is that right?
I did. They organized a meeting with several church officials and several Boy Scout officials, and had me tell my story, what had been occurring over that summer.
And what did they say to you when you told them that Swendeman had been sexually abusing you as a kid?
That's the first time I actually heard that we don't believe you. You have an awful vivid imagination, and we don't really believe what you're telling us. And that made the pain all that much worse.
And Dave, you're now 56 years old, right? How have you carried this over the years? How's that been for you?
It really is a pain that doesn't go away. It's something you carry with you. It hurts, to your very core. It's humiliating. It's painful. And one word that comes up is shame. There's a lot of shame associated with it, but but not anymore, because, you know, today I unload that shame. It's no longer part of me.
And what do you want to have happen from this action that you brought, this lawsuit that you brought in your name when you didn't have to and you could have used the John Doe, but instead you chose to use the name I'm Dave Lundquist versus Boy Scouts of America? What do you want to have happen from this?
Well, number one is have the 30 years of perversion files released. The environment is still not safe until those files are all released, because when they're released, that says that they get this, they understand this. I'm afraid for our kids. I have 4 grandchildren, and I'm afraid. I would love to see them involved in activities like Scouting, but I'm afraid that they still haven't got it, that the environment's still not safe. And I want it to be a safe environment for my kids and other kids that are out there. But more importantly, the message I want to get is that if there's kids out there that something has happened to, I want them to have the courage and the knowledge and the understanding to come forward. If something doesn't feel right, to come forward and tell somebody that something's not right. Because, as I said, my perpetrator had me so well groomed that I wasn't going to tell anybody.
Especially not after you told and you weren't believed, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dave. I want to turn it over to Steve. Why don't you two switch positions here for a minute?
Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Steve, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you're here?
My name is
Dave, come in closer. Dave, you come in closer. Yeah.
my name is Steve Josephson, and I grew up on the east side of St. Paul. And I was at age 12 until age 15 sexually abused by my scoutmaster, Lee Opolinski. And I'm here because I'm tired of living in the shadows with this. And like Dave said, I feel the same way. It's time to step out of the shadows, and if it will help other people who may have been sexually abused, whether by my scoutmaster or another scoutmaster, or any leader, counselor, teacher, minister, whatever. I signed up for the Boy Scouts of America at age 12 with 2 dreams. One, to be an Eagle Scout, and the other to study to be a medical missionary doctor. And those 2 dreams I never achieved because of what happened with the sexual abuse.
And when did you learn that they had perversion files for decades that have been housed and kept secret at the national level, or the perversion files? And how did that make you feel when you learned that they had these secret files?
I learned about it, Jeff, about 2 years ago, and started doing my own research online. I was devastated because it showed to me that this organization was not being totally transparent like they should have, and I had always believed that they had cleaned up their act, so to speak. But these files and the ones that haven't been let go show that they're still in denial.
I'm holding up, Steve, something here. First, what is this?
It's a scarf that we would wear for a special Order of the Arrow, and I got 2 of these sashes. It was just like one of the levels of scouting that I achieved. I did make it to star, I believe.
And this is a picture of you as a scout at the time that Leland Opolinski began abusing you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And that's Opolinski. Both Opolinski and Swindeman are dead. But the legacy of the harm is evergreen, and it lives in the hearts and the souls of many, many kids and survivors. There's both perversion files on both these offenders who are now dead, but the harm that they did and other scoutmasters and leaders who are in the perversion files yet to be revealed is evergreen. And so what we want and what we demand in this lawsuit is for the Boy Scouts of America to be the program they claim they are: safe, character building communities that can build character instead of destroy lives, by allowing secrets to be kept and denying that their program is a magnet for predators and pedophiles, because it is. And I wish I could say this is the first time I've had to take an action like this. I wish I could say that we haven't had people calling us for decades about abuse in scouting, and parents unaware of the peril and the hazard that exists there. So it's our hope and our desire, sincerely, that the Boy Scouts of America will heed this plea and release these files and not have to make it be done by a court. And it's our hope and plea the release of those files and those names being kept secret for the last 30 years will be released voluntarily by them, because we want them to be the program they claim they are: safe and character building. And it's our hope and prayer that others like Steve and Dave can come forward and know that they can get help, and they can help us help the Boy Scouts be better. And so to each of you, we're grateful for the action you took here today, the courage you've demonstrated, the courage that the Boy Scouts of America haven't demonstrated by keeping secrets, and what lies ahead. And so I know today, because of the action that you've chosen to take and use your names and share your story, that other kids can be, and through your actions and courage, perhaps will be safer. But until the secrets are disgorged, until the files and the names in them for the last 30 years are known across this country, we can't trust this program.